mic is on. I think there's a couple of you that are going to for sure, but anybody else, you can come on up as well.
Thanks, guys. Before I share, I just wanted to mention that I didn't know Ryan was such a softie. And my goodness, waterworks. It's because he's elderly, is what? Yeah, I get it. But no. Since I left Indianola, my wife and I, we live in Omaha now. We have for the last 10 years. We've gotten a chance to see a lot of different churches, be a part of a lot of different church bodies. And one thing that you all have here that is not all that common is a consistent youth pastor, a consistent youth presence. So give a hand to Ryan. Ultimately, God did the work, but I owe so much of who I am as a man today to that guy over there. Like he is one of the biggest influences on my life. So my name's Corey. For those that don't know me, and this is like crazy seeing so many faces that I haven't seen in years. Clayton, Nick, my goodness, and Craig. Inside. Love to be a part of one someday. So I hand up accountability. I was the lazy kid that left football practice early. And yeah, as you can tell by my figure, I was a star running back in high school, like feet like you couldn't believe. No, I like talking about football. I like watching football. I wasn't any good at it, and I hated football practice, everything about it. And yeah, the rock was an excuse to get out of Wednesday practice early. And there's so much of my life, so much of my story that as you just read the scriptures, you hear the two words, but God, used all of the time. And I see that in my own life a ton. Just that night, it was October 17th of 2007. I thought I was just being lazy, but God had other plans. Thank you. So, without getting too detailed, growing up, I didn't have a great relationship with my biological dad. Abusive, just not a good childhood with him, and that was a big part of my story. I grew up kind of as a depressed kid, not a lot of hope, and by the grace of God, my grandma, who's sitting here, always told me about Jesus, so I knew what Jesus was. I knew about him, but I didn't know exactly who Jesus was for me, what Jesus wanted to do with me. And it was that night that I came to church where the topic was over abuse. And what I was told for the first time that night is, A, the abuse that happened to me was not my fault. But B, there is a Father in heaven that loves me and is the greatest Father that anybody could ever have. And so he saved me that night, and it was in this very room. I've shared that story quite a bit, but it's been a long time since I've gotten up and shared in front of people here. Went to Bible college in Omaha, Nebraska. Met my beautiful wife. Gosh, she's so hot. Right here in the second row. Yeah, now she's blushing, and yeah, that was my intention. God has just blessed us so much, like walked us through so much. I thank God that because if you've ever heard her story is incredible as well, and just so blessed that God brought two broken people together in a time of their lives where I really felt like I needed you. And we got married in 2012, going on 12 years now, and we've got 3 kids with 1 on the way. But to be truthful, it wasn't until about 10 years ago or so that we didn't think we were going to have any children. doctors gave us a 1% chance to have any kids. But God had other plans. He performed a miracle on my wife, and now we have a growing family. And, with the lack of a father that I had growing up, especially after I got married, all I wanted to be was a fat, balding dad. Like I wanted to be the dad that I never got to have. And by the grace of God, these kids won't stop popping up now. Like, yeah. If only there was an activity that I could stop doing to make that stop. Anyway, calm down. But I just go back to this room and how much God used the people here in this room, be it Ryan, be it Ed, be it Aaron, Aaron the Canadian that isn't here. I wish he was here. No, Nate. Nate's his name. I'm sorry. There's so many people that just invested into my life that didn't need to. But I'm so grateful that I was here and that God found me here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caleb, Cassie's younger brother. That's how 90% of you knew me. So I own a barber shop. That's what I do now. I have 3 kids of my own, and I live in eastern Iowa over by the great city of Iowa City. Go Hawks. Part of my story is I've struggled with addiction for many years. And I get very emotional talking about it, but I do tell my story quite a bit throughout the community of Williamsburg. In other communities, I've had the chance to mentor my story. And, excuse me. Almost 6 years ago, I made a decision to give up drugs. And I've struggled with that a long time. As you can see, I'm shaking, sorry. But if it wasn't for you, Ryan, and Cody, Sean, Caleb, sorry. If it wasn't for people in this place, the things that are going on in my life right now, I would not be able to say that I could be here. I don't think I could be the brother that I am today, and the son and the father, if it wasn't for all of you beautiful people. So I just wanted to come up and say thank you, Ryan, for always making me cry at youth group.
So yes, I'm the one that came a week early. And Ryan asked me last week if I'd talk, and I said yes. And so over the last week, I've just gotten to sit and kind of think about life and the role that this church has played on a young kid when I was growing up. A little bit about me. I was born to a single mother. My father was in prison when I was born, out of state. I was what people called an oops child. So I had 2 older brothers that were about 7, 8 years older than me. A very sinful household, things that, as a parent now, you never really think, hey, boy, I don't want my children to see those things. Without getting too detailed, eventually at about 10 years old, we moved to a new neighborhood, and I met a family that went to an old church, Fairview, if anybody remembers Fairview Youth Group. And so he said, hey, you want to go to church with us? And I said, you know what, I've never really been to church, but hey, I'll give it a try. How do we get there? And he said, they show up in a dirty van. And I said, okay, then what? And they said, then they take you out into the middle of nowhere. I said, okay, I'm locked in. This sounds fun. And so I get in the van, we go out, and this was before they had the Morton building. So we go out to an old farmhouse, and he says, hey, follow me. And I said, where? He said, the basement. At this point, I'm already there, so we're going, right? We go down in the basement and get to meet great people. Ultimately, that becomes the Morton building, and I keep hopping in that dirty, dusty van, going out to youth group as a kid. And then some changes happened, and we ended up, a lot of that group kind of dwindled. And so then, as about an 11, 12-year-old, I started coming here half and half. Luckily, I got to go to another small place called Lucas, Iowa, Jericho Hills, if anybody remembers that place. And it's funny because, I see pictures of DC up there, and I remember him getting to pants by some of these guys. And then I just happened to marry his cousin. And so when I tell those stories, I think about it, it's great. But as we sat in the chapel out there, I remember about 12, 13 years old, not knowing much about what good leadership is because of the household I grew up in, what life really had to offer. Growing up, I had teachers tell me, hey, you're just going to end up in prison. And I thought, I don't want to do that. And so I asked God in my heart, sitting in a chapel in Lucas, Iowa at Jericho Hills. And so year after year, I continued to come back. Year after year, became more involved here. Getting to go to Tri-State a couple times and meet, I got friends in Polo, Missouri out of nowhere, right? And I think about the fun pranks, and, I looked at that card, and it was like, what was your favorite thing about The Rock? And I think about the pranks that we would do at Tri-State, tying people up and taping people up to the poles, Mostly, just for fair warning, it was led by Sean and Caleb, okay? They were the ones that led most of it, yes. Ultimately, I ended up sticking around and, just thinking about all the opportunities. Because as I think of, hey, who was a turd as a kid, generally it's a picture of me. And the fact that I was allowed to even come here over and over and over again is a blessing, because ultimately the lessons that I learned here at this church in this building has developed me hopefully into the man and the father that I am today. It gave me the qualifications that after college and going and meeting a wonderful person gave me the qualifications for her father to say yes when I asked for her hand in marriage. And so now as I stand here, married over 7 years, I got 2 beautiful children, one on the way and one in heaven. And I just think, man, how can I be the best leader? And so part of that is because of the values that were instilled in me. My children go to Des Moines Christian. Those are things that, I grew up in trailer parks, and now I think about the lessons and it's emotional thinking about how my 5-year-old comes home and I say, I love you, son. He says, no, I love you more. I say, I love you more. He says, I love you as much as Jesus loves me. And gets you. And so part of my, what I believe my calling is I coach high school football at Des Moines Christian. And so if my kids ever left practice early to come here, I'd have to say that's okay. And so, Ryan, I don't think you understand the role that you play in people's hearts, especially fatherless children, children that just don't know what is what. And because of God, it's all possible. And I think you do a wonderful job. And so can we all just say thank you to Ryan one more time?
I come from, so I've got one person that I really, really, really want to thank. At a time in high school where we all think that, relationships end and it's the end of the world, Zach Chaplin over there turned around and he brought me here. I was upset and was mad and wasn't making the best decisions, and I was making a lot of bad decisions, and he brought me over to Ryan, and Ryan was like, man, you got a lot of time. That's nothing. It's nothing. And so I want to thank Zach for bringing me here, because ultimately, even though I was the kid who came here because I wanted to have fun and was like, I don't know about this whole God and this whole Jesus thing, it brought me to, I've traveled between multiple different churches. I moved up to Fort Dodge and went to school. And I tell you what you have here with both pastors, like up in the Fort Dodge area, pastors are flipping 24/7. This is a family. It hasn't changed. And it's cool to see how many people are in the room. The other thing is the fact of, if it wasn't for Zach bringing me here, I wouldn't have met the girlfriend that I have who's 6 hours away, and very, very, very good relationship. And on top of that, watching Jake and Cheyenne and talking with like Anthony Chilton, you know, it's those people that I watched, Nita and Dave. I watched them, and it's just a family. I've watched them mold their families, and I couldn't be happier to say that this is a big old family here at The Rock. So, thanks, Ryan.
Hi, I'm Terica, and I'm an old fogey. So I wasn't one of the youth kids, but I had the privilege of being a youth leader here a long time ago, back when Sean and Caleb and Clayton and Nick and Corey all drove us crazy, and Eileen and Trish. I mean, I could go on. I was just reminded of a verse, Proverbs 22:6 says, "Start a youth out on his way. Even when he grows old, he will not depart from it." And working with youth is not easy. Coming here every week and hearing the stories and sharing our hearts, and then not knowing if it was worth it, not knowing if anybody even heard us. Lots of times my small group met in the kitchen. We would sit in the kitchen and talk, and I don't know how many times I would just be like, they don't even care. Why are they here? This is worthless. But it's so neat to see so many of you here today. In fact, when my mom told me that Cody Smith was here last week, I said, and she said, yeah, he goes to church. He's a real godly man. And I went, Cody Smith? Cody Smith. So it's just, it's a privilege. And I know that all the people here who have worked with the youth and over the years will say that it's a tireless job. But it's important to remember that if we do what we're supposed to do and we share the gospel and we speak truth, no matter what that's in your heart, you can't forget the things that you've heard. So for those of you who maybe came today just because it would be fun to see everybody, I hope and pray that this will be a step that will maybe get you back to where you need to be, and that God tells you, sorry, I don't have my actual Bible today, tells us that you've heard it. You've heard it. I know you have. So apply it. Open your Bible, read it, find somebody to talk to. And also, I feel like we have to mention the lock-in. The lock-in that stopped all lock-ins forever. Who remembers the Napoleon Dynamite lock-in that we had one and only one lock-in. And let me just tell you, if there's some stories if you'd like to know. Specifically, Sean and Caleb, what? A lock-in tonight?
Well,
yeah.
tonight, that's
No.
just all I'll say.
No, never again. Never again.
So I know I'm pretty recognizable to a few people in this room, but the crazy thing is, I think it's been, 8 years since I've been here, and I was still one of the newer, I'm still one of the more recent. One thing I will say about Ryan that comes to mind, to say that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot would be an understatement going through the rock. But Ryan, you never gave up on me, and I'm really thankful for that. I was not very nice to you, and I'm sorry, but Yeah, you did not ever give up on me, and I can't believe nobody has shouted her out, but Karen, you. I'm sure there's a lot of times that I was unlovable, but every time I see you, the first thing I get from you is an embrace. And after dealing with 5 boys in your car for 13 hours going to Mississippi, not to mention me, drinking a food poisoning shake that Sonic sold me for whatever reason, but. Oh yeah, you taught me how to roll paint. Nobody ever told me not to drink this shake that was, supposedly bad. So yeah, I know I've had my great relationships with my leaders here. I know Caleb was our small group leader for a while. Caleb, Ryan, Karen. Thank you all for never turning your back on me. I know I deserve to have you turn your back on me many, many times, but thank you guys.
I didn't want to come up here because I knew I was going to cry, so on my way up I started crying. Ugh. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I was 14 when I moved to Iowa. I was living my best life in Las Vegas. I was happy, I had my friends, I was content. But my parents hated each other. And so my mom uprooted us, moved us to Iowa where we settled in. And I was completely heartbroken because I was taken away from my dad, who I loved and was my hero in my eyes. After going to school for a little bit, I became friends with Tasha Chaplin, and she invited me to youth group, and I'd never really been to anything like a youth group before, so I went, and I liked how I felt going there, and after a time, we started going more and more often. We started going on mission trips, we started going to camp, all of these things that were really pivotal in my life. I had experiences at camp or on missions trips in Belize and Ohio, Mississippi, experiences that I would have never had otherwise. And along the way, Ryan and I, we started discussing things as you do. And as he talked about Jesus, this perfect person who loves you unconditionally, I thought, no way. Nobody can love me unconditionally. And Ryan just kind of kept drilling it in my head. And I think what was the hardest for me to accept was this Jesus was so much more different than my dad, who I still loved and idolized and looked up to, and I wanted to go back to, and I even tried to go back to for a little bit. But that didn't work out. I don't know where I'm going with this, but because of Ryan and people that have already been mentioned, Karen and Jill, Sonia, Nita, all these people, Julie, Craig, all these people poured into me when I needed somebody to pour into me, when I was feeling insecure and self-conscious and unlovable and frustrated and all of these things. I had grown-ups who loved me unconditionally, and these grown-ups were the people that I met in church, who, when I failed and when I fell short, were there to correct me, but do it in a very loving way. And Ryan, it was because of Ryan that I'm here right now. It's because of Ryan that I'm saved. It's because of Ryan that I have a job that I love, that I didn't settle, I guess. And so, Ryan and I butted heads a lot, but like Austin said, there was never a moment when I didn't feel loved by him and didn't know that what he was saying to me wasn't A, what I deserved, and B, what I needed to hear. So
Hi. Most of you probably know me. I'm Trish. When Ryan first started in 2002, I was the youngest in the youth group. And I am now 35, if that tells you how long he has been here. I just wanted to say that it's great seeing everybody here, seeing so many familiar faces, so many adults and everything that loved me and poured into me when I was a teenager and growing up. You know, now I have a child that is old enough to go to youth group, which is crazy to me. And just, it's wonderful hearing everybody's stories and just seeing how God has worked in their lives. I'm personally going through a hard time right now. I'm going through divorce with having 4 children. But I know that I'm going to be okay because of Ryan, because of Darlene and Aaron and Terica and all of these people that have loved me and poured into me and helped lay this foundation in my life at a time that I needed it, that now when I am going through a hard time and a dark time in my life, I know that I will be okay, that my children will be okay, because they have all of these people here that love them and support them and will be there for them. Karen, you know, is another one. Nita, more people than I could ever mention. I just want to be up here and just say thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Darlene. Everybody, Pastor Ed, thank you for what you all have done. And I hope that being here today, you have seen that you do make a difference. Kids are hard, yes. I am also a middle school teacher. So I know teens are hard and kids are hard. But thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for loving on everyone that comes through those doors, whether it's one time or for years. Thank you.